Hello, welcome back. I can see everybody is just jumping onto the call, which is fantastic. We're gonna jump straight in today. So hopefully, we've got the vast majority of people on the call and ready to go. So welcome back to our next session in our digital transformation series. My name is Matt Rawlins, Director of Growth for Data, Tech and AI here at Kaplan. And our last session, we saw an overwhelming response to our new AI leadership apprenticeship units. And the feedback was clear. Businesses don't just want to buy software or train isolated specialists. They want a unified strategy that connects their entire workforce. And that is why today we are bringing you the three tiers of AI training. It's something that myself and my team are talking a lot about at the moment. And we're finding that actually it's a really interesting topic of conversation. And hopefully, we'll have some good conversations today. I am joined by a familiar face, Michael Lafferty, our Director of Data and Technology Education and a fellow out of the BCS. And also another familiar face that you will see there, Shirag Swaley, our Head of Data and Technology Curriculum. Shirag has experience, lots of experience in learning design and technology, and he is our mastermind behind the scenes in terms of the curriculum blueprints for our programs that we're bringing to you today. Michael, though, we're going to start with you. Let's start with the macro problem. Why do one-off AI training courses fail? And what does a truly connected corporate AI ecosystem look like?
Yeah. Good afternoon, Matt and everybody else. Good to see you. So I guess these fail because of what some people might term a fragmentation trap. And I suppose right now, many organizations, our own included, having been through this, are letting individual departments buy their own software, maybe run isolated experiments, maybe send staff on generic half-day prompting courses. The result is that maybe you can get shadow AI popping up in silos rather than something that's unified across the business. There's potentially data security risks there as well. There's probably limited measurable return on investment as to what benefit these tools are bringing. And quite often you might see that various areas of the business are duplicating what other departments are doing as well. So there's perhaps doubling up on effort going on unnecessarily. So I'd say to move from fragmented initiatives to true operational proficiency is no easy task in reality. But you have to stop looking at AI training as isolated events. So what we've done here at Kaplan is we've architected a unified three-tier framework, which you mentioned. So in that framework, then tier one, these would be our leaders who clarify the rules, establish governance, and align the technologies with business goals. Really important point, of course. Tier two, we consider to be practitioners, and they act as the technical architects who are building secure data pipelines and connecting systems and basically building the products that will resolve the challenges that the business might have. And then tier three would be our champions. And our champions are serving as the operational glue embedded inside everyday teams, various departments, and their role there is to drive human adoption and use of the tools that the business has rolled out. Um, Chirag, actually, if I can bring you in from at this point, from a learning design perspective,
Yeah,
how did you structure these programs, these three tiers, to ensure there is synergy between them?
yeah. Thanks, Michael. And I think this is important, isn't it? So many businesses exploring different ways at the moment to get upskilling done. But what does that look like? As you said, half-day workshops. So people are trying to get things done, but it's not done in a connected way. So these three tiers, effectively, what we're doing. If you think from a leadership perspective, the leaders are very important. They have to lay out the vision. That's what brings in the buy-in. And we know so many times organizations have brought their co-pilot licenses, adoption isn't there. adoption is not, and adoption is not the same as engagement, right? So the idea with these layers are the top tier one leaders will set the vision. They set the boundaries. What is it that we're doing? The risk tolerance to do all of that. Then the tier two, the practitioners are making sure that in there in the systems. And then the tier three are the champions are supporting the business to then say, let's adopt, because it's so easy from the top to say, we're embracing AI, we're doing this. But does it translate? Does it translate to everyone? What about this person who's really worried about their job and what it means for them? Can we find ways at different levels to bring this together rather than simply different pockets doing that? So the structure of it is to make sure that all tiers coherently flow with each other.
Thanks, that's really good. And that resonates with the conversations that we've been having with clients. If you take out one of those tiers or one of those wheels, the whole process doesn't work. They need those three cogs to make it work. So if we start then with that top tier, the leaders side of the courses, this is the new level 5 apprenticeship unit. So this is coming about from the change in the apprenticeship levy to the skills and growth levy. These are flexible 30-hour courses that are specifically targeted to individuals in leadership roles, those individuals who are setting the direction, setting the oversight for AI use within an organization. So if we start with that top layer, why is that layer, why is this leadership layer so vital as a starting point for any successful AI rollout? Michael?
Yeah, Matt. I guess you mentioned some of the key reasons there, actually. Because without leadership setting the direction, technical projects lose their strategic purpose and quickly become unsettling and disruptive for the business. Maybe they become experimental or pilots. Probably the last thing that businesses want is things going wrong like that because of the disruption it causes. So with our level 5 AI leadership unit, that centers on AI delivery and organizational transformation. So this particular unit is specifically built for leaders who oversee the implementation and have responsibility for embedding AI directly into everyday business processes and ways of working. And it's crucial, as you've already alluded to, that this starts at the top and is supported fully from the top down as well. So with the leadership apprenticeship unit, rather than focusing purely on the technology itself, the unit addresses the crucial human side of technological change. So the idea is that we're going to equip managers to handle automation anxiety, for example, in the workforce, to lead reskilling initiatives and safely execute change programs that upskill teams to work with AI rather than being afraid of it. And because it's a structured, flexible 30-hour course, it is actually very accessible for individuals and businesses, with the £750 cost of it actually being available through government funding as well. So it provides decision makers with the capability to lead AI-enabled organizational change, which is an area that the government considers to be a current gap in people's skills at that level of the business. Chirag, I know you've done an awful lot of work on the unit, particularly the curriculum and how we're going to deliver this and have a great program for leaders. So as the architect of this, what do leaders actually study in the unit? And perhaps what sort of concrete assets will they be able to leave with?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Michael. So, I mean, I want to just mention, so Matt, obviously, in the HR forum a few weeks back, we presented and we talked about the idea that, AI is a HR problem and what should you do about it? That was one angle we talked about. But the fact is, when you're talking about AI-enabled change and strategy, all leaders, whether it's the people function or other functions, need to be involved, right? So the way we've designed the unit itself, it's being more actionable. So like, okay, fine, we have this. You can't simply just bring in AI technology, but what does that mean practically for the organization? How do you drive that change? So the practicality of it is you're sort of starting off with looking at how do you map this AI capability directly against the operational workflows? What does this actually mean in terms of opportunities? But then you sort of move on through that workforce impact assessment, right? What does this actually mean for the skills gaps in teams, what does it mean actually in terms of the changing work role itself? Michael, you mentioned automation anxiety and all of that, but how do you design ethical ways of setup? What are the guardrails? Are we going to design human in the loop or human on the loop? There's so much to think about, and it's going to be unique for each organization. So what we're doing is we're creating an environment in those apprenticeship units where you have leaders from different businesses coming together, but they don't walk away with theoretical knowledge. They're leaving with something documented, something that's board ready for them. What's our strategic AI roadmap that someone can take away, which will involve this workforce resilience plan tailored to that specific organization. So we're getting them to consider everything that they need to consider, unique to their culture, organization culture, and then bringing that out, and we facilitate that process.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I'm finding as well. I was at the HR forum with you. I've also been to IT director forums as well. And I think both of those elements are really important. Not only is it looking at the human aspects of AI, but it's also looking at the data, the security side of things as well. So we're ticking both of those boxes with this unit. So that's that leadership level. That's that top tier. But ultimately, that is the strategy. And we're defining that strategy. We're defining those guardrails. But we also need the builders. We need the people on the ground to make those changes. And that brings us to tier two. So tier two is the level 4 AI and automation practitioner. Now, Michael, we call these apprentices the productivity architects. So, in terms of the core tech stack, what is the operational problem that they are solving?
Crucial role, in fact, Matt, and we've identified that we need that role and have that role in our own company as well, in Kaplan. And I guess they're the technical backbone of the AI ecosystem in their organization. So Gen AI completely suffers from something we used to talk about in data analysis. Garbage in is going to equal garbage out. So if your internal corporate data is unstructured, messy, or disconnected, it's likely that your AI models are going to hallucinate, perhaps display bias and make errors as well. So we're talking about some really important stuff that needs to be done right here. So the level 4 practitioner is an 18-month program, and we've designed it to train people to implement digital solutions, realize the potential of AI, address inefficiency in existing systems, but ultimately unlock time and cost savings for the organization.
Perfect. And Chirag, can you walk us through what that actual curriculum looks like, the phases that you've built for these practitioners, and what are they going to be learning and be able to configure on a sort of day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so we've sort of designed it into three different phases, if you will. If we start off with the idea of what is a practitioner doing, so at this tier 2, what are they doing? They're supporting the business not just in using AI from a prompt engineering perspective, but actually automating workflows. So the first part of it is that strategic architecting, isn't it? So you're trying to understand what are the opportunities, what are existing workflows, and mapping that to understand what are manual processes, bottlenecks, what is causing us a pain initially. So if you think these level 4 practitioners, they're acting as change agents. So they start off with that point there and then understand actually what can we do to make sure that we create some low code automated proof of concept. So let's start with that. So that's the strategic architecting piece. But then obviously then move on to the next piece, which is what we're calling advanced engineering. We would dive into the technical stack. Now, every organization is going to be different, right? Some of them might be using the standard Microsoft off-the-shelf stuff, but then you have so many other options from an automation perspective, right? So what do they understand? They understand, well, actually, what is it? How do you centralize these data pools that you need? How do you work with large language models? How do you then create these workflow processes to be able to then start making sure that you've got something that works, but back to what you said, Matt, in terms of making sure that from a data and security perspective, that's taken care of, but then integrate that to now start deploying these agents, right? And then obviously there's that piece, right? You're building the tech itself, but any change requires any kind of business transformation requires the whole aspect of managing that change, right? So how is that run? So, and then looking at that from the perspective of what does this mean for our people, cost benefit analysis, what does this actually mean? Are we tracking these automations that are happening as well? Are we using that data first approach in terms of that? So they're making sure. So if you think from these layers, they're supporting starting off with where are the problems, where are the pain points. Let's start building, but let's make sure that change comes in a structured way. So that's how we've sort of built this. And obviously the whole idea is throughout this, it's all about the practical. We've built it in a hands-on way. We've included certifications, like from CompTIA, for example. We've got essential certifications from, for example, work with agents. We've also mapped these to some of the Microsoft certifications that they're like the transformation leader or the AI agent builder. So what we've done is it's very focused on a hands-on curriculum, but with the view of you being the change agent to support people from here's a problem to okay, we've implemented this and it's working for our business.
Thanks. Within there as well, we've built quite a few certifications. I know that some organizations and some individuals like those certifications. Can you talk a little bit about the certifications you built in that AI and
Yeah,
automation practitioner?
yeah, so badges are important, right? So CompTIA themselves have so you've got AI essentials, AI prompting essentials, AI agent essentials. These all certification we've got, and they get them quite quickly within the first sort of 6 months. But we've also then aligned this to Microsoft have some of their certifications, for example, the AB731, which is the transformation leader, again focused on the change aspects of things, and then you've got the AB620, which is the AI agent builder. We're again focusing. Now, obviously, if some of you are listening here and you might not be doing Microsoft stuff, the idea is that we're giving them principles and we support with the idea that can you demonstrate that you can do something with some technology which then applies no matter what you're using. Yeah, but like we do with all our programs, we bring in badges and certifications so it demonstrates the ability of a person to actually work with that tech.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. So we've talked about the leaders, we've talked about the AI and automation practitioners, so tier one and tier two. So if we move to tier three, and for me, I am having conversations day in, day out where tier three is the most important piece. And to be honest, the piece of the puzzle which is often missed out because it's all well and good having a strategy and having those technical experts. But unless you have somebody that understands the operations of the department, the operations of the team, how do you actually optimize it? And that's where the level three AI champion comes in. And we are referring to these as those departmental optimizers. They sit inside a function, HR, sales, finance, and they know the operations. So, Shirag, as the curriculum designer, how do you plan their course? How do you pace their journey? Why is their journey so important as the operational glue on the ground?
Yeah, and if we think Kaplan, we have 1,100 staff. I've been involved heavily around the AI literacy piece within, right? And what's crucial is the people on the ground, right? These AI champions, right? So the whole idea with this is we've designed this in such a way that first of all it's modular and it's paced so people who are non-technical staff, because this is the whole idea with this is you need change agents at ground level to support everyone in terms of adoption engagement. So we want to take them from I don't know much about AI to I will support my team, my department to getting to where we need to from an AI adoption perspective. So the way we start off is we start off with the fundamentals. So the first part is fundamentals, and we make sure they understand truly because there are a lot of misconceptions about generative AI. So do you really understand generative AI, first of all, as a technology, but do you also understand the risks? Very important. Do you understand the ethics around using it? Michael mentioned shadow AI and how very quickly that comes about. Do you understand the whole piece around that? So we get the fundamentals first. Very important for them. Then they move across. So that's sort of the first 3 months, but then they move across to the applied skills. And again, as I mentioned, the fundamentals, we always map certifications again. So they'll get things like the CompTIA badges to demonstrate their competence. But then they're moving into the whole idea of, okay, well, fine, we understand this, but how do we actually move on to things like workflow automation, going back to some of what the practitioners are doing, but here they're actually supporting the individual. So how do we map everyday tasks? How can we just do simple things that take us from something that would take an hour, a couple hours to a few minutes, for example? What does that look like for individual departments? So they support in terms of that, but they also then support in terms of local troubleshooting. The champions are there because can the IT department of an organization support everyone in terms of the AI needs? It's quite possibly they can't, right? They're there to support with technical issues. They're not there to support with, oh, can you help me with how to use this? They will be overwhelmed with that. But if we then had the champions they're supporting, so again, this is the applied skills, the second phase. And then the whole idea is, look, you have to drive adoption, and AI is different, and we've seen this, right? So organizations have an AI index. They're trying to see, okay, how do we drive adoption? I also then mentioned adoption and engagement, and is not always the same. How do we get that? So this phase is on strategic adoption. So how do these champions go around and support digital coaching, for example? How do they deliver one-to-one or group works? How do they deliver clinics? They run promptathons or any different things? And it's different for organizations. We enable them to actually then bring that sustainable change and change in mindset and behavior change. So people go away from, I don't know what this genius is, or this is scary, or I'm not sure what this means for me, to I can see how this applies to me and I can see some direction in terms of that. So that's what we sort of have the adoption. And the last bit is obviously optimization, because if you think about it, fine, you've got people using it, but what does this mean from a sustainability perspective, or what does it mean actually in terms of changing job roles, innovation, and everything else, right? So what do we do around that? So that's the optimization piece, and it's continuously evolving, right? This is not going to be the same. 3 months from now, there'll be new models, there'll be new ways of, from an AI perspective. We know it's continually going to be evolving. So the key thing is the champion goes through this series, and in that 12 months they've gone from maybe not knowing that much about AI to really getting the fundamentals to driving that change for the organization. So that's how that's structured.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And I think that timepiece there is a conversation that I have again daily in terms of actually we need to make these changes now. Why is an apprenticeship over 12 months? But it's about learning those skills and applying those skills and refining those skills over that 12-month period. And you can see those different sort of stages, if you like, in that course. Michael, I know that you are a big advocate of departmental champions. So, in plain English, maybe a language that, in a way that I would understand, can you explain why AI champion is such a game changer?
Yeah, Matt, you're right. I am a big advocate of this function. I think it can have a real impact in an organization. And perhaps in simple terms, it could come down to a simple reality. And that is that just giving somebody a software license doesn't mean they're actually going to use it. And if they do use it a bit, they might not use it as effectively as potentially they could do if they knew more about it and were trained on it. So an AI champion isn't a distant IT specialist. They're an approachable colleague sitting right inside their department, whether that be HR, sales, accounts, or any department. And they understand how that team actually works day to day. So they can act as a desk side coach um, who replaces automation anxiety, perhaps with confidence, showing their peers how to remove repetitive tasks, perhaps like boring data entry, how to build safe habits using that Copilot license, for example, and how to solve real departmental bottlenecks on the spot. They're that go-to person, that advocate that's going to drive others to adopt and use the tools effectively and efficiently. They're like the operational glue that's going to turn an expensive Copilot subscription, for example, into everyday time saved for the business.
Thanks. And it's at this point that we're going to go to one of our first polls. So just hold there, Joel, in the background. So if we look at what's been broken down, so we've looked at those three tiers. So we've looked at tier one, the leadership, tier two, those technical experts, maybe the AI and automation champions, and then tier three is those departmental experts, those departmental optimizers, the glue at the bottom. So we've got a poll. Joel, if you're right to launch that poll. And it would be interesting to see how you feel. What is your biggest challenge? So we've got those three tiers, or is it actually all of them? Feel free to vote. We've got just over 60 people on the call, so it'd be great to get a good range of results there. Okay, so I think we're coming through. Most people there have voted, so I'll end the poll there, and hopefully you'll be able to see the results popping up on the screen there. Um, Evenly split between tier one and tier two there. So suggesting that actually we've got those strategic vision, we've got then maybe a centralized team. And then moving on to tier three is looking at those operational experts. So looking at actually being that glue in their departments as being 33%, so a third there. But the vast majority of people on the call look like they are at the very beginning of the journey. And I would say, don't worry, there are lots of organizations at the very beginning of the journey. And that is why we are on this call and having the conversations now. So 42% there looking at all three levels of that AI training. Um, I have got a couple of questions already come through. Please feel free to chat through any more questions. And just as they come through, I would love to get a final takeaway point from Michael and Chirag. So if business leaders, HR directors, and IT leads watching today remember just one principle when they are planning their AI workforce strategy, what would it be? And I'm going to go with Chirag first of all, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, of course, Matt. So I think if I had to pick one thing, is just let's not treat AI training as an isolated event or an isolated set of events, because that's what's happening, right? People are doing different things. And bring it all together. If you buy any piece of software and people have access to software but they don't know what to do with it, it can either create a lack of engagement or, in many cases, frustration. So if you don't have a connected way of technically connecting everything together, then you might end up with shadow AI and other things, right? You have technical debt coming around. So I think really what we're then saying is the real magic happens when you've got your leaders, practitioners, champions all speaking the same language and fueling each other's success. So if you can find ways of doing that, then that makes a big difference.
Thank you. And Michael?
Matt, you may or not know, I'm a big fan of quotes. Actually, I love quotes. So my final thought, I'd say, was captured perfectly by Sam Altman, the co-founder and the CEO of OpenAI. And he said, AI won't replace humans, but humans who use AI will replace those who don't. So I see our mission here at Kaplan as ensuring that our clients and their workforce ends up on the right side of that equation.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And we can definitely help out. So we have lots of questions coming through. So I hope you're both prepared to be grilled. So we're going to start off with our first question from Sarah, and she was chatting through earlier on. She sent this through when we were talking about the AI for leaders. So when introducing the AI apprenticeships to all leaders, would you recommend starting with specific teams first, e.g., tech teams, customer journey, or is it best to have a mix? Also, do they need to have exposure to AI prior to attending the course? Chirag, are you able to
Yeah,
answer
yeah,
that one?
I can answer this one as well. So first of all, the whole idea with this is so we know, but the people are so when you look at AI, there's the whole idea of an AI maturity for an organization, and you may have people who are just starting out, or the leaders may not have a good handle yet on what's happening, whilst you may have others who've tried a few things and they're not quite there. The whole idea with this is you want people to be engaged. So right, and rather than not having anyone, then you can have some teams. But really, if you can have a mix, and sometimes we get this, Matt, isn't it? Sometimes we've had organizations who have closed cohorts where they want the marketing leader to be speaking, to be next to the finance leader where they're talking about AI and all that. So it creates an environment where they can start talking to each other, which naturally sometimes is not possible. So I would say a mix is great as well. Or if you're just starting out a few, it doesn't. What matters is that you're starting out, and then it slowly starts, percolating across the rest of the business. Do they need exposure to AI? No, they don't. The whole idea with this is we're help supporting them in building this out. And the way we build the units and all that is you may have a room of people where some people are further down the journey than others, but then we create the environment where they can. And the great thing with this is also you learn a lot from the others in the room as well, especially in public cohorts. So yeah, so no need for to be clued up. That's the whole idea with these training courses, that will support you in that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with
and
that,
you're right.
Matt.
We do support organizations with closed cohorts as well as running open market cohorts for these as well. So depending on the volume of learners that you're looking to support, we might be able to do something a little bit more tailored. Michael, were you going to add something then?
Yeah, Matt, I think a mix is great. That will work really well because different leaders will have different challenges, and it's great that they are able to bring those to our unit. That's the way we've designed it. So part of the learning will actually be what people bring along as well, so they can learn from each other. So yeah, and the crucial thing is the audience will have experiences that will help others that are there in that room. I think experiences are perhaps ranging from not just being in a boardroom, but maybe in senior leadership meetings as well. So those challenges that they face to running businesses, not just isolated to AI, but how AI can then help and the strategy can be rolled out into the business. So.
Yeah, and I think it's probably the same as well when we're seeing the AI champions and the AI and automation practitioners as well. Actually, having that variety, sharing those ideas is so important in terms of generating new ideas for your own team. If you're isolated, you don't learn. It is very much about learning. So the next question that we had on here was how will the AI champions and AI practitioners keep up with all the changes happening with AI during their apprenticeship? And I think that's probably a question that every single person is thinking. Shirag, are you able
Yeah.
to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the key thing is we know it's a changing landscape, and this is where in a longer apprenticeship. So if you think about if you had two cohorts, one that started today and then one that started 3 months from now, doing the same module, they will be learning new stuff in terms of what's changed, what's the latest model, what's happening, are the new use cases and all of that. So that's one of the things we make sure from a curriculum perspective that that's always there. But also what's happening is the way the modules are designed, they're building that up. They're building that up so people can explore. And then also we're giving access to things like labs, which allow them to go and safe experimentation to then say, okay, what else can I try in terms of new features that have opened up, for example. So we're then building that by design to ensure that every person as they move through are continually learning. So it's starting from foundation, moving up, but as the tech is updating, they're getting those updates through that as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and I'd add to that as well, Matt. These are programs. They're not just courses. So the level 4 and the level 3 are programs. So they have a particular length, and there's quite a significant amount of things that people are able to learn on those programs. A lot of that, they'll learn with us in live online classes. But the other thing that we'll ask people to do is we'll ask people to go out and do research as well. We'll challenge them to keep themselves up to speed with the latest developments in products and technologies, and that will be part of the program. They will be learning by actually finding out about some of the new features that are coming out and new technologies that are coming down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's key as well. And again, you take the AI champion, that they are looking at making departmental transformation. You're not going to deliver that transformation overnight. That transformation is going to take 12 months, 12 to 13 months. And hence the actual program is designed to support that learner throughout their journey with the business on their journey. So no, that's really good. And that sort of links in perhaps to the next question.
Matt,
And
actually, just one more thing I just want to
go for
add.
it.
The other thing also to think about, sometimes we also get too caught up in how tech is changing so quickly, but yet if you haven't got the fundamentals right, so like fine, agentic AI is right now is upon us and all that. But if people in the organizations aren't even using the basic Copilot license to be able to do that, all that tech changes doesn't actually mean anything, and you're not going to get to that level very quickly. I think sometimes people we have a lot of sentiment of I'm really behind. Organizations have that. We're really behind, but really it's more about if you get the foundations right, then it's very quick to be, or it's easier to be able to quickly adapt to other changes. But if you don't have that foundation, just keeping up with the tech itself doesn't do anything. And this is why the whole idea of making it holistic and understanding the psychology of delivering that adoption and change is sometimes even more important than keeping up with the tech at that level.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you wouldn't throw your child in the deep end of a pool, would you? So yeah, it is a little bit like that. Um, there was a question around the courses being more finance focused. So whether or not the tier two, the level four practitioner, and the AI champion can be finance focused. Now, I know we've mentioned that we can do closed cohorts for certain numbers there, so there might be an element there. But Chirag, are you all right to pick up on that piece?
Yeah. Yeah, so the idea is obviously we serve lots of sectors. So finance, is one of lots of clients maybe come from that background. But the way we've built it is it allows people from no matter what the sector, they're still able to work with and implement. And obviously, in certain sectors, there's a little bit more in terms of there maybe governance and regulations that they have to cater for. We make sure we are covering those elements. And what tends to normally happen as well is because we are getting in the cohorts people from different sectors, you actually get the richness of understanding not just that sector but others as well. But usually what we're doing is we've created a program that enables people, irrespective of what sector they're coming from, to be able to go in and do stuff. And also because it's an apprenticeship and we have our coaches who then support the learning, the individualized journey as well, it allows them, even if they're in a particular sector, to still be able to go out there and do stuff. So which again is the flexibility of apprenticeship programs, unlike just a course on its own, which is what Michael was saying earlier.
Perfect.
Yeah, Matt, and the apprenticeships are challenging programs deliberately as well, and we expect people to be problem solvers where when they're on those programs with us. So that means that we will cover certain things when we're teaching, but then an important part of the apprenticeship is how individuals then take that back to the workplace and apply it in their particular business, in their roles and in their departments. And they may well face individual and unique challenges depending on what their area of work is. But we'll equip them to be able to problem solve, but we won't give them the answers to all of the questions that they might have. But we do expect that they'll be able to resolve issues.
Perfect. And we do have a few sort of simple questions that I think I'm able to, even myself is able to answer. So I was just going to few because I know that we have got a lot of questions on here. So there's a question regarding how often the open cohorts are running. Typically, they are running monthly, but we are monitoring our demand and we would put on extra cohorts or reduce cohorts dependent on the demand. There was also a question around there around the apprenticeship standard that the AI champion is linked to. So the AI champion is actually built off the digital support technician standard, which is currently going through revision at the moment. So that is the standard that this is built on. And the key thing there is about supporting their department with that AI adoption. And that is fundamental to this AI champion role. They are not just looking at themselves, they are supporting their team, their department with that AI adoption. Um, Shrag, one for you, just in the questions and answers one.
Mhm.
Is the leadership course open to managers, or is it just strategic decision makers?
Yeah, so one of the units we were talking about specifically doesn't need to be strategic in the sense that they're looking after the whole organization. Could be anyone who's driving adoption at a departmental level as well, and they're doing operations. So think about operational leaders rather than people who are the most senior up. There is an apprenticeship unit which is completely for the most senior people who are driving, they're setting direction for AI strategy. But the one that we're offering immediately at the moment, it can be supportive of more operational leadership as well. Key thing to think about is do you have do you have do you have something in terms of a manifesto to be able to drive something for your organization, and something where you as a leader are responsible for driving that for your department specifically. So if you're able to, if you've got that, then you should be able to work with that apprenticeship unit.
Yeah, so if you're a policymaker, a decision maker of your particular department, then
Yeah,
it would work very well for that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the next question over there is do we need to have enterprise AI tools already in place for the AI practitioner?
So you don't need to have them in place, but the question you're going to ask is if what are the practitioners actually going to be doing? They need to be using some tools to drive those change. It could be you're bringing the practitioners and in the first 3 months, part of what your rollout, your map is that we'll be bringing those in, and that's fine. But what normally you'd think that the expectation is that you would have some kind of tech stack that the practitioners will work with to deliver that change. Otherwise, they can't really even meet the competencies of the organization. Because ultimately, whilst we can provide some tools, the whole idea within apprenticeship is that you're driving that business change within your organization. So they will need some kind of platforms that they're working with to deliver that change for the organization.
Cheers. And I'm really pleased to see the next question from a lovely ex-colleague of ours. So in a small organization, what would be your advice to them around AI apprenticeships? Should it be a top-down level 5 approach or a bottom-up level 3 route? And I think the answer might be a combination of the two, but does either Michael or Chirag want to answer Karen's question there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Karen, and great to have you interacting with us. And yeah, I'd suggest coming at it from top and bottom. So I'm going to say that I think somebody in a leadership role could benefit from the apprenticeship unit because of the flexibility of it and the short duration. We know that leaders, particularly in small businesses, are incredibly busy people. But if they're able to give up 30 hours of their time over a period of I think 5 weeks for spreading this with 1 day per week, then that would definitely benefit that organization. But I think then from the bottom, level 3, and that person could then potentially, elevate into the level 4 role as well in the business. So yeah, I think from both directions, about top and bottom.
And what I really like as well about that top and bottom approach is that the upskilling of the AI champion in terms of those technical capabilities are in the first 3 months when you are also upskilling the leaders. And then the leaders and the AI champions can talk together about then how do we build that into the team? What processes do we look at? What areas do we audit first? So the timelines of those really work nicely with them both starting the courses at the same time. Um, we do have a brochure. We will reach out after the session. We'll probably drop you an email or give you a call in the next couple of days, and we will share a recording and we'll also share details of the brochures. Joel, actually, at the moment, did you want to ping up those QR codes as well, which people can also use to access the individual courses in a little bit more detail? Um, so just looking through the questions, we've covered that. Next question is, do you incorporate case study learning for champions as well, where they can look at a practical example relevant for their organization?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
most definitely. Yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
Shirag, you go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to just say, so yeah, at the end of the day, everything is based on hands-on stuff. So we focus on hands-on stuff, but the case studies would come in terms of they make sure this is back to what Michael was saying earlier in terms of research. What are organizations doing in that sector, for example? What are the challenges they're having, and what are use cases that are coming up with what's happening for that? So we make sure that they have the ability to be able to explore that, but also at the same time having a safe space where they can go and implement and also key thing, go back to the organization and do some stuff around that. So whilst we'll use then case studies to support them in terms of that, ultimately the big drive is, are you going back and then doing stuff for your organization? Because these are not academic, they're not theoretical programs. They're all about actually driving that change for the organization. But I don't know, Michael, what you're going to say on this one.
Yeah, and say I know straight away Chirag will build in some case studies, and we'll get some case studies from people bringing their problems and challenges to the live online classes as well. I reckon, Matt. So yeah, and those people that are on the program, particularly with the AI champion, they will learn strategies for coaching and supporting their team as well. And those will be shared with the others on their course. So, for example, somebody might be able to say, I actually managed to support my team to do ABC using this strategy, and other people on the course can benefit from hearing that. And, you know what, I wouldn't have thought of trying that, but it sounded like it was really successful. So I could potentially give that a go. So people will learn from each other as well as from case studies that we'll have.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with that is there is no one strategy that supports everyone, right? It's being able to be dynamic enough to understand, depending on organizations, people, cultures, mindset, you have to do different things. And that's where the program really brings in that richness of being able to elicit that for different people.
Thanks. And a couple of last questions on there. There's one there. We have teams globally. Is there an option for those outside of England? So firstly, yes, we can support with the apprenticeships for people outside of England. Unfortunately, though, it is not funded by the Skills and Growth Levy. So yes, we'll have a conversation with others. We can talk about how we can support with that. And then the final question that we've got so far, unless somebody chats one in, is just looking at whether all of these are apprenticeship units, or is it just the delivery and organizational transformation? And it is just the AI delivery and organization transformation. But Chirag, do you want to talk through the other two standards?
Yeah, so we will be eventually at some point offering those. To start off with, we just have this first unit, but there's two others. If you actually look at this, so I'll just for simplicity, I'll call it Unit 9, Unit 10, and Unit 11. So Unit 11 is what we're offering. Unit 9 is more around organization. So this is the top layer of your leadership, and they're setting the vision and strategy for your organization. And so and then Unit 10 sort of goes down another layer and so on. What we have is the biggest challenge you have is with things like the Unit 9, it's the absolute top layer of the organization, whether those individuals have time to be able to come and do something like this, we're not sure. But we again can work together with you, and that's one of the things. If you reach out to Matt and team, we can make sure, because we've worked with a lot of organizations where for their senior leadership, sometimes an apprenticeship unit may not be the right thing, but we can do something different for you to support. And we've done that with lots of businesses to support that top layer to understand what is it that they can do with the organization. But yeah, effectively, those apprenticeship units, think of them as going from the more senior leadership to more operational leadership. And we're starting with the operational leadership for the moment.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that we've spent a lot of time designing this, working with our clients, understanding the requirements, and building out this standard. And therefore, we wanted to build it right. We didn't want to launch all three of them. We have plans to launch them in the future, and we can certainly work with people. But this was the one that our clients were asking for. And I suppose it's also quite often businesses are already through those first two stages. They already have that vision. They've already chosen a tool that they're starting to roll out as a business. But actually, they want to then look at how do they drive adoption of that particular tool, which is, again, another reason we sort of starting with that delivery and organizational transformation.
Yeah, because Unit 9 is, again, going back to the AI maturity level. So you look at Unit 9 for leaders, more at people who are just literally starting out in terms of from the AI maturity perspective. So it's not something that all organizations need. As you said, lots of businesses we're speaking to, they are very much, they want the operational side of it to get going for this one.
Brilliant. And we have had just one extra question ping in the end there. How are the 30 hours delivered? Is it one day a week for 4 weeks? Yes, to an extent. So it's one day a week for 5 weeks, and then a 2 week assessment phase. Michael or Shrag, did you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's quite difficult. It's been quite a challenge for us to know how to structure the delivery of those 30 hours, Matt, because we know that the audience for them are busy people. They would probably find it quite challenging to leave the day job to one side and attend a day's training. So yeah, it's as you've said, we've spread that 30 hours over 5 days, over 5 weeks. But the crucial thing about an apprenticeship unit as well is that anybody that's committing to do that, the business and the individual that's committing to it is also committing to complete an assessment as well. And it's a bit more of a practical assessment, a skills assessment towards the end as well.
Yeah, and again, working with a client at the moment who wanted to spread it out over a couple of months. So we're doing a day every 2 weeks for them as a closed cohort. So our open market courses are running every week. But again, we can have conversations with you if there's something more tailored that you wanted to look at. Well, I'll just say a huge thank you to all the questions. I think that's probably our busiest session yet in terms of questions, which is fantastic because it means that it's a subject that you are all wanting to hear about. The team will be in touch after the webinar just to reach out to see if you would like to have any further conversations, if you need any support or any follow-up literature. You've got the links there. Big thank you to you, Michael, Chirag, and Joel, for being my guest on today's show. Yeah, really looking forward to the next one in a month or so.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Matt. Goodbye, everybody.